6 p.m. We're calling this a meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. We know we are missing Dusty and Patrick, but we'll do a roll call of attendance. Kayla?
Here.
Fred?
Here.
I am present. Our new member, Dan?
Here.
And Melissa?
Here.
Do we have any changes to the formal agenda for this evening besides Pam's added comments for the E4?
Just kidding. No, I noticed that the financial reports aren't in there. If we can move it down to the bottom, I will put them in there so we can look at them as well. If we can switch it around to after Pam's comments, so.
Sorry to jump in. I have two things I kind of want to add that might be in the budget, but would be things that we'd have to discuss as well.
Okay.
Would that be added to the formal agenda?
Depends on what they are.
Okay. Two proposals.
Okay.
One, that we add to the budget placards for this commission.
Okay.
All the other ones.
Yep.
And two, I think the discussion would start, but like I was looking at the budget and it looks like we still get money from the book sale, perhaps? Is that, or we don't have anything from that anymore?
No, but we can move both of these things to the budget discussion.
To the budget, okay. All right, well then yeah, the other one is also possibly a fundraising thing.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
all right.
Sweet, thank you. So if you guys are okay with moving the financial report to after threats to the NHPA Section 106 report, I will upload those and then we can look over them for the...
We have to click the link again?
Yeah, yes, you will have to. Heather will have to. Fine.
All right, can we get a motion to approve the amended agenda as discussed?
I would make a motion to amend the agenda as discussed.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All right, so that brings us to the minutes from last month. Did anyone have any notes besides me?
Maybe just you, Kyle.
All right, in B, it says Pena after commissioner review. I think we just take out after and maybe say can the commissioner review? I don't know. What was I saying? Can the, yeah. It's a note about your revision to the notes from before, so it doesn't really matter that much, but. And then in the same B, we have Morton line forwarding should be forward in. And C, towards the bottom of the section, it says Megan Daniels, whose, WHOS, just delete the S. In E3, MHPN notes, the second sentence really doesn't make any sense at all. I would suggest we say Dr. Evan Kutzler from WMU has a website about the Pioneer Cemetery. Because that's what I was trying to convey in my comments. In F2, 9th line, there's just a typo. It says filed, it should be field of interest. In F4, the 5th line, application delete the words "be submittal" for clarity. In the 6th line, it says SHIPS, when it should be the acronym SHPO. And then in the last sentence, it says build cost of the service. I think it's supposed to be but cost of the service. And that was all.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Anybody at all?
Approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Kayla.
Second that.
Thank you. All right, so that brings us to public comments. Do we have any submitted previously? No? Any from the audience, being Pam?
You're off.
That's one. It's not podium.
There we go.
Testing. Yeah, that works. I didn't have any problems getting to any of the documents attached at the link that was provided for this meeting, except for the proposed budget. I tried a couple of ways and couldn't get in to even look at it. So I thought I sent a note, but I don't remember now. It's been a busy couple of days. Anyway, if maybe someone could share it with me after the meeting. I don't know, are you planning to vote on it tonight? Are you planning?
This is just a draft. We'll have a more serious one. This is for internal budgeting purposes. I must have misread your email, and I apologize for that. I
Okay.
thought you wrote another email that said, "Oh, I got it," but I must have misread the follow-up email.
Yikes. No, I don't know
to
what I
your
did.
email. No, not a problem at all.
Okay. Could you just send me a draft then?
Yes.
draft?
Because
Okay.
she sent an email that said you must have goofed, so I was like, oh, maybe she figured it out. But I will.
Like I said, it's been a busy couple of days.
I will
Thank you.
send it over to you.
Thanks.
I also want to look at an email. Never mind. I'll bring it up in my closing remarks. We can move ahead.
Okay, then. We're moving the financial report, so that takes us to the historic tours report as submitted by, I'm guessing, Melissa or Dusty?
Yes, that was me. So as I included in the report, we are working on our goal 3. Our goals 1 and 2 have been completed. We are working on completing our tours, prioritizing our tour of Mountain Home Cemetery currently, just so we can really hammer home on getting that one completed since we are a little bit behind. We have our rough drafts all written for all of the entries that we're going to be focusing on. So the next steps are editing those down, getting the pictures put together, figuring out the locations that we actually want to put the pins in Clio, and then we will work on uploading everything. So we are full steam ahead on that one, excited about the progress and excited to get that up and running for you guys to all see. So hopefully we'll have a better update, bigger update next month.
Sounds good, thank you. All right, that brings us to the O'Connor Fund report. I think the only new thing on there was that Pam and Luis and I met to discuss the changes to the website application and website itself, and that is moving along.
Yes, I have it on my list. I'll schedule time with Neil to get all those updates actually put onto the website for us. Thank you for writing up the report, Pam. I can't remember if since the last meeting we had everything changed over kind of behind the scenes, where now it does not need to have the pass-through through the city. We can directly disperse the funds right to the recipient of gifts, or excuse me, mini grants or grants. I don't know if we covered that last time or not.
Yeah, I think it's mentioned in there.
Okay, well, there we
But
go.
terminology-wise, I did ask if we still had 2 buckets, and you said yes, but then I saw somewhere it said like an 04 fund, like.
Yes, so maybe it is worth explaining then, especially for Dan, and do not shy away from asking questions if you have any. I know we're flying at the speed of light here, but if we look at, and Heather, if you can scroll down to the report that Pam submitted for the O'Connor Fund. Yep, scroll up. Oh, up. 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 Yep, you passed it. Sorry, is what I'm trying to, gotta go up. Down in page number, back up to Pam's report. There's only 2 documents? No, I had to go up. Well, there's another one in between if we keep going up, right? Huh.
Oh yeah, that's part of it there.
Yeah. I thought I saw it. Oh, you gotta keep going. Up. Something looks like this. There we go. Oh,
Playing
there we
hot
go.
and
Perfect,
cold
right
here.
there. We'll stop. We'll hold right here. So I trust you've read through this, Dan, and if you go back and look at some of the older reports, you'll notice that there's different kind of naming conventions for some of the funds. On the final page of Pam's report, she includes O'Connor Fund values. In the past, we would have had OCON 1 and OCON 2. Just we're lifting the names directly from the Kalamazoo Community Foundation for these funds. Since we kind of had the restructuring, I don't even think is the right word, but since we kind of changed the way that we could disperse the funds, a new fund, OCON 4, has been named, and we don't use OCON 1 or OCON 2 anymore. We skipped right over 3.
Okay.
All that to say, these are naming conventions and part of an artifice. This is not, the practical use for us in the past would have been where we wanted to choose to spend funds out of, but now they've been grouped into one. Pam has done a good job of breaking it out in this report to show the actual values. Looking at those values, right, we're up north of $800,000 now, which is wild to say, I think. And I did disperse the funds to the Friends of Kalamazoo Historic Cemeteries for their mini grant. Hopefully that answered the question, Kyle.
So now with any future motion, we'll just say from O'Connor 4?
It's my understanding. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if we
Yep.
don't have to specify which if there's only one. Okay. Any other questions or comments about this report? Takes us to number 4, threats to section 106, submitted by Kayla.
Yeah, sorry, it ended up being longer. Oh, is it working? This report ended up being a bit longer than I thought it would be, but I just really tried to summarize all of the things happening to Section 106 as part of the National Historic Preservation Act. There's some very drastic changes being proposed by the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, or the ACHP, and it's moving very quickly. So, yeah, just trying to break it down in the report of like what's happening. Essentially, the ACHP came out with these very, just these draft revisions that really cuts out a lot of things that are a part of the NHPA and the Section 106 process. So just made some bullet points of, some of the things that it proposes, mostly, changes to definitions of like what counts as undertakings under Section 106, what historic properties are, really, axes consultation with tribes and TIPOs, SHPOs, but also just the general public, which, all of those three were really supposed to be strong pillars of the Section 106 review process. So, like I said, this is all happening very quickly. Right now, the draft revisions are with the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, which I've never heard of, but, and I just saw, I think a couple of days ago, that agency is taking meetings with folks, like you can request to schedule a meeting to talk to them. I don't think that it's like a question answer thing. I think they're just listening to what people or agencies have to say. The first meeting I saw that was listed a couple of days ago was with like some mineral, I don't know if it's a lobby or company or something. So there was a webinar earlier today from the National Trust of Historic Places, and so they were kind of giving a little bit more information on that too. So like anybody, I believe, can request a type of meeting with them, but if they forward on, like if they approve these draft revisions, the ACHP would then publish that in the Federal Register. Folks think that that will be a 30-day comment period. It could be much shorter. Who knows? But it's just strongly encouraged to try to get like 250,000 comments submitted during that comment period. And so like once that gets done, the ACHP would review those comments, they'd vote on the final rule. Most likely they would just, try to get whatever they had originally written passed. It would go back to that OIRA agency, and then if it's approved, then the revisions, so then it'd be published in the Federal Register again, and then it would be effective 30 days later. So it's kind of like a convoluted process, but just included some tips, kind of like what we can do. And again, thanks to Pam for sharing a lot of links. I tried to include a lot of them within the report. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention because it's really important, and it's just a big threat to historic preservation across the country. And I think I put in here, maybe at the top, that I know this is my last meeting, but I would request that the HPC submits a letter during at least that public comment rule for the draft revisions when it opens. And I just noted like it could be, it could make sense to like co-submit it with the HDC or break it up. I'm not really sure, but yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Sorry. And I'm just shooting, like, what are the possibilities that Michigan's equivalent, we don't really have any authority, so like, if that gets passed, then federal projects only could overrun the historic status, or is there any tooth to fight it downstream, I guess, if the federal mandate is changed?
Since the state doesn't have its own historic preservation specific law, I don't think that there would be much that like could be done at the state level to not follow the federal regulations. At least that's my understanding.
It sounded to me like what Dan was asking, like, is, I won't speculate what, I won't go into a speculative mode to say like, hey, here's what X, Y, and Z definite effects are going to be, and if it could have any other sort of trickle-down effects on like local laws or enabling legislature or anything like that. We do need to look at these as separate things, right? So we need to look at these as separate things, right? So like the local historic district stuff and then the enabling legislature that's for the state of Michigan is completely, we'll put air quotes around it, separate from the National Historic Preservation Act, and Section 106 then is separate from the things that we look at when we say, when we look at things like, say, local historic districts, right? That being said, I would encourage people to ask questions now. Kayla, not having any questions to ask me is that, you know, you either did the best job ever of explaining 106 to folks, which I don't doubt that you did, but it is very complicated, so I don't want people to shy away from asking questions as to what this is either. And I think, you know, I went to like a executive committee meeting today for MHPN, and this was really the buzz of that meeting as well. And I think the ramifications of this that people are going to be seeing are very widespread, and it's in a lot of ways that you might not be considering, right? Dan, especially you, and I don't mean to single you out, but having dealt with HDC for so long, you know, I think you get a hyper-locality with it.
Right, and we're, you know, everything's based off Michigan stuff.
Yep.
And so I didn't know if that remains in effect.
Yep.
And protects some of the things going on, or if it's, you know, at a federal level, then that just washes away everything downstream.
No, I would look at them as separate. You know, they are separate laws as far as I know. Not a lawyer, so no one sue me. But Pam will talk about it as well, I'm sure. Take the opportunity to go through the links if you haven't already to read stuff. The proposed one is way shorter, so it shouldn't take you that long to read through it either, right? Yeah, I'll open it back up for folks to ask questions.
Well, you said you don't want to speculate, but I guess to explain a little bit how we would see it, Luis includes a report quarterly about the reviews that he does through Section 106 that uses federal funding from many of our local nonprofits, correct? So the repairs that are done to like porches and water heaters and roofs and all those sorts of things, even if they aren't historically designated, still pass through his office. So that could change things in that regard at our level here. But Pam, do you want to?
Guessing I'd have to rewrite
Take the
that
stage.
programmatic agreement. What a bummer that would be. I think to set the stage for Pam, the big thing that we want to be able to look at and understand too is what is 106 review. I think it's something that gets tossed around quite a bit, right? People talk about it. Makes you sound like you're in the know when you talk about 106 review, when you're in historic preservation circles. The way that I often explain it is that if we can take as one fundamental truth that in the United States, preservation is viewed as a public good. If we take that as the fundamental basic truth, then the government would never want to do anything then to harm anything that has to do with preservation, right? Because we know that it's a public good. It has been stated as such, and that is kind of our canonical base truth. 106 then is the tool that is used to say, okay, money's going to be getting spent. The government is so large, the federal government is so large that it can't possibly be everywhere at once. So the 106 review kind of kicks in to say, okay, hey, let's take a second and see the way that this money is being spent. So Kayla was talking about undertakings, right? That's the work that's going to be done. Altering those undertakings could alter the scope of work that triggers the review for Section 106. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but you know, then looking at historic properties as they are defined, then that's really important too, to understand how does an undertaking affect a historic property. The example that people I think most often give is like a highway running through a major city, clear cutting in effect houses, right? That's a classic 106 example of saying, hey, if that's going through a neighborhood that has some historic relevance, that's kind of in direct opposition to saying that historic preservation is a public good, and that, to me, the shorthand way to look at it is that's the equivalent of the federal government shooting themselves in the foot, right? So then 106 says, let's take a step back, let's pause, let's kind of consider alternatives, let's consider ways that we can mitigate the damage to these historic properties, as historic preservation is a public good. Section 106, the name also comes from the fact that it used to be Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, but it's since been moved, like Kayla said, to 36 CFR Part 800.
Take it away?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to say the things that are coming initially just to establish my credibility to speak here tonight. I'm Pam O'Connor. I'm a resident of the city of Kalamazoo. I am a former member of the KHPC and its former chair. I am the former chair of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network. I am a former advisor from Michigan to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and I am co-founder with my husband Terry of the O'Connor Fund for Preservation in the city of Kalamazoo. What I mean to tell you by saying all of that is that I've been in this business for 40 or so years, and I've seen a lot. Well, I've seen some things I suspect before some of you were born, even, in Kalamazoo, and I want to speak to that a little bit. How Section 106 has affected what we have in Kalamazoo. Section 106 saw Kalamazoo through its first big review amongst historic buildings in downtown. The KHPC had what we now refer to as the Arcadia Creek area surveyed to determine its eligibility for the National Register of Historic Places, and it was determined by the Park Service to be eligible. Because HUD money was involved, Section 106 kicked in, and it was the project or the undertaking being proposed was a flood control renewal project for the Arcadia Creek area. It was proposed in the 1980s, and that whole quadrant of the center of downtown was affected by the survey. Ultimately, because of the section survey consultation process, and following lots of time with HUD, with the Michigan SHPO, with MDOT, the city, the Preservation Commission, and many members over months of the public, a memo of understanding or agreement was agreed to that, this I think you'll find interesting, created Luis's position. We still have a preservation specialist in Kalamazoo because of that very first Section 106 process. It saved very significant buildings in the Arcadia Creek area while allowing demolition of some. And it also, at the time, set up a design review process for new construction in that area. It did other things as well, but those are the top of the tiers. Not many years later, Section 106 also saw Kalamazoo and the West Main Hill neighborhood through a Department of Transportation undertaking that would have devastated the south boundary of Mount Home Cemetery, the park across the street, and encroached substantially on some private property along the stretch between the lower end of West Main Hill and the top of West Main Hill. Because federal transportation dollars were involved in that, and because the project would have substantially widened road, Section 106 was again triggered. Again, following lots of consultation. I was actually living in the West Main Hill neighborhood at the time, and I spent a lot of time working on this with Lynn Houghton. The Department of Transportation, the Federal Department of Transportation, MDOT, the SHPO, the city, the KHPC, many residents of the West Main Hill neighborhood, and the public. Because of that process, We reached another memorandum of agreement, and that was pretty radical given what was being discussed. It slightly widened the existing lanes from 10 feet to 11 feet each. It eliminated a proposed turn lane, and it added some signage. That was the resolution that everybody agreed to. For close to a half a century, Section 106 has been at work saving Kalamazoo neighborhoods, and other places. Because it exists, it drastically reduces demolition in neighborhoods that are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, as well as those that are included in the National Register. This is a different way of reducing demolition than what is used by the HDC, but the outcome is largely the same. I know there are probably days when Luis wishes he didn't have so many Section 106 reviews to do in eligible neighborhoods. It's a lot of work to implement them, and there are lots of properties that he looks at annually. But because we also have a certified local government, which is a federal designation, administered by our SHPO in Lansing, which in our case allows an appointed HP specialist, AKA Luis, which, thanks to the first Section 106 process we have in place here, he looks at those. And it requires that the Federal Secretary of Interior standards are used when exterior alterations are proposed on a property, either in a National Register district or an eligible district. And a lot of people don't know this. Dan, you're probably somewhat familiar with it, but the Secretary of Interior standards are really a set of best building practices. In a sustainable community, that's what you want. You want to keep it going rather than throwing it away. And the methods that they propose are very sustainable, and they support fixing things up instead of throwing them away. So buildings, entire blocks, and entire neighborhoods, as a result of Section 106, are being fixed up and kept in continued use rather than being demolished. Please also think of Section 106 as a planning tool for cities and cultural landscapes and other places. I believe that the Vine neighborhood had not been on the National Register of Historic Places. If it hadn't been on the National Register of Historic Places before it was locally protected, it might have been destroyed by absentee and landlords that weren't paying attention to their property and just collecting the rent. I believe that Vine, the North Side, and Edison, all of which are protected through 106 review, because they are eligible, collectively provide our city with thousands of affordable places to live. I believe that among all the voices involved in the process of change, city government, SHPOs, TIPOs, tribal communities, local public, are the most important voices, not the least important voices. The KHPC and the HDC are parts of the city's government, as is the City Commission. And all three bodies should register their outright rejection of what is being proposed by the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. Our federal legislators need to hear us. Our governor needs to hear us. And as the National Trust said in its communication this morning, quote, "The Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, AHPC's proposed rule change for Section 106 regulations would eliminate public participation in federal preservation decisions. Section 106 is one of the few ways that ordinary Americans can still influence federal decisions affecting their communities, and it's worked for 60 years. Please don't let them silence your voice on decisions that would harm you or your neighbors. The people who live with the consequences deserve to be at the table to help shape the decision," end quote. I'm going to stand here and tell you that this is an education initiative as much as it is an act of advocacy. There are lots of people making decisions in Washington right now that have no clear understanding of how preservation works. Please make this a priority and act now, both individually and collectively. If the proposed changes are ultimately approved, all of the things that speak visually to our collective history, that make us love and understand our special places just by being there, will surely be under constant threat, if not lost. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was very informative. Like, again, like Luis indicated, I come from more of the hyper-local background, and I'm getting up to speed on how it ties in and all this. From that description, it does sound like we should be educating the Kalamazoo local citizens on this, and maybe even, you know, as small of a thing as it is like do some sort of concise write-up and have like the Kalamazoo official Instagram put out something where it's asking people to put, you know, go and make public comment and or, you know, I lean towards social media because that's like the fastest, easiest way to get mass amounts of people to interact with what's going on. But like, you know, the speech that you gave, the reports you're writing, like if that was in front of and more aware of the average Kalamazoo person, I mean, it's outrageous, yeah. Like, and it feels like it's one more thing that's just trying to take the guardrails off to rush through things without thought, which is never a good idea, so.
So what do we do?
Is up to the HPC. You tell me what you would like to do. So in response to Dan's question, and I'm sorry, paying attention but trying to take notes, we need to make sure that we're doing things that are permissible. So are we allowed in some capacity? Obviously, this is all public, so your report right now is public, and I'll ask the communications team if there's anything that we can share with them. I think, to me, the real struggle, right, is there's multiple needles to be threaded, if you will, to speak proverbially, right? Probably the most important one is making this make sense to average person and making the average person care about this. That's probably the biggest hurdle, right? Because I think that Section 106 is something that is immensely complicated, even to people who spend their entire lives probably doing this. There are so many different levels of historic preservation. So, again, the term 106 is something that you'll oft hear, but I don't know how many people are actually really acquainted with the process. So that is something that I can, if that is what you're suggesting, Dan, on behalf of the HPC, or as a member of the HPC, rather, I can certainly speak with the communications team to say, hey, would there be a way for us to do blah, 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 whatever it is. I'll work with them to figure out what that path forward is.
I think along those lines, like Pam had mentioned, like significant structures that were basically saved, you know, Kalamazoo icons and or, you know, landmarks, literally, that everyone recognizes. And so if we, you know, lead with, it is a complex thing, but we lead with this designation allowed Kalamazoo to hold on to, you know, the historic integrity of the Vine neighborhood and these specific structures, and they're proposing to just pull that or change it so that we wouldn't have had a say. I mean, that gets in people's blood, you know, that, oh, I don't want people to take away my rights and my voice. But, you know, having it concise enough, because, yeah, like if you lead with like, you just buzzwords, like 106, I mean, that's going to go right over everyone's heads. But like the idea of there's a policy that helped Kalamazoo retain its history and make it what it is now, but then if they repeal that or change it, in the future, we might lose that.
Just to reframe it, so we're on the record about it as well, and because Dan is new, the HPC is obviously not allowed to explicitly advocate, but there are certainly educational things that we could share with the community to say, hey, this is what 106 does without 106. Along those lines, it sounds like is what you're saying.
Right, yeah, we would just point out all the wonderful things in an educational way.
Yes.
What we've gotten, and maybe we could even let people draw their own conclusions if it didn't happen, but that their voice is needed to go, and
Yes.
yeah.
Echoing what Pam said there as well then. Anybody else on this one? It's a lot of resources that were shared. Kayla, thanks for putting together this report. This is not light summer reading, but I would encourage folks to go through the report. Pam, thank you for sharing the links as well. I was texting Kayla on Friday, and I will say that a lot of this stuff is not necessarily easy to find either, right? So that's why there are so many links too. So you're going to do a lot of clicking, and you're probably going to be like, where is what I'm looking for? Some of it might feel like it's a little bit hidden, or some of it might feel like, oh man, it's not. I think you just need to find the right link to click. Some of it also might feel, again, like, I need to have some of the background information for me to even understand this. There are resources, so there's like the Citizen's Guide to 106 that's included as one of the last links. Go through them, look at them. A lot of those are just kind of pamphlet-like things that you can get a very quick overview of. I tried to give a very quick crash course in what 106 is, but those will help a little bit more. Go through and read some of the other links as well to keep up to date on this. I'm sure that the Trust recorded their webinar today, so you could also check that out. National Trust for Historic Preservation, NTHP. Just Google that and check out the webinar as well to kind of understand what's going on there too. There are resources out there to know about it, and I think that, again, I often say that preservation is it's a small world in preservation, and I think that it is good to be able to listen to things like the webinar to understand that it's not something that we're only experiencing here, right? This is obviously preservation at the national scale, so looking at it from that lens might help put it into perspective as well to understand the issue as well. Any other questions from folks? I have one. Yes.
I do believe the City Commission has the power to advocate. They have written letters on behalf of historic preservation to legislators in the past, and I think it might be valuable for any of you who know any city commissioners to have conversations with them about trying to get it on the agenda as soon as possible. As Kayla mentioned, when the ACHP put this out, they said they were going to have the proposal ready but in 30 days or something, and they had it in less than 2 weeks, I think. Things are not being done in a transparent way, and there is a timeline, but who knows if they're going to pay any attention to it. So I will be talking with the city commissioner that happens to also be my neighbor, and I would encourage all of you to call one and talk to them, even if you don't know them. You are still citizens beyond this commission, and you're entitled to have an opinion.
Thank you, Pam. Throwing around a lot of acronyms as well. So ACHP, again, is the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. That's a federal body that deals with historic preservation. Kayla spelled it out in her report, but NHPA is the National Historic Preservation Act. SHPO, obviously, is State Historic Preservation Officers. TIPO, or State Historic Preservation Office. TIPO is Tribal Historic Preservation Office / officers. Go through, read Kayla's report again. I think it does a great job of outlining all this stuff, so kudos to you, Kayla, for putting this together for us, and then including all the links for us to be able to browse through as well. I'm here if people have questions too, so.
So do we need to get something to you to talk to communications about putting out there?
I think that I probably have enough pieces with the report that was submitted. I'll just go ahead and talk to Neil tomorrow. I'll send him a Teams message because we have to put together the O'Connor Fund stuff anyways to get updated on the website, so it'll be perfect.
And the roster.
And the roster. Serendipity at work.
As an organizational body, can we as a group, I know like the HDC could make recommendations through like voting in new members, you make recommendations to the city commission. Could we as a group make a recommendation to the city commission to put it on the agenda?
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
And that way we don't individually have to call people we know, but as a group, we could ask them to put it on the agenda and then we could have a discussion on it.
Yes, I'm sure you could, yes.
How would we do that? Would we have to make a motion?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to make a recommendation to the city commission that we put this on the formal agenda for them to discuss, and then maybe, since you wrote a great letter, Pam, maybe you could get up and present it, and then Kayla, I don't know if you'd be willing to as well to give them the report you wrote and then say some words too, and then have them, because that's more, there's more teeth coming from this body than, if individuals got up there. Oh, that's a long motion. But I make a motion that we make a recommendation to the city commission that this gets put on the formal agenda.
Yeah, I would also stipulate, so are you looking like, to hold me accountable, then also just to give this motion teeth, to say, so you want something, which we can flesh out, regarding section 106 and the edits that are forthcoming, proposed edits that are forthcoming to be included on the city commission agenda when?
The next one.
Gotcha, if possible.
If possible, and then that Pam and Kayla can get in front and then explain what's going on so there can be discussion.
Okay. And I'm guessing then that what will happen is that I will probably submit some kind of report. I'll probably lean heavily upon Kayla's report for that report. So that is what will be submitted then to the city commission for that.
Okay. I think we need a second.
A second.
Right. Sounds good.
Now we have to vote on it,
Yeah,
unless there's discussion.
We have to vote even though it's not money?
Yep, it's a motion
Oh.
to make a recommendation to the city commission to discuss the forthcoming changes regarding section 106 at the next possible city commission meeting, that the recommendation could be looked at considering the deadlines for submittal to the city commission meetings.
All right. Then we do a roll call vote on said motion. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dan?
Yes.
And Melissa?
Yes.
There we
I
go.
will get working on that. The only reason I'm saying next possible meeting is because those deadlines come up fast. So I will reach out to the clerk's office as well to figure out when the next one is that I can get included on.
Anything else on the section 106 topic? Then we will be circling back to the financial report, which is now in the packet that was published at 6:05.
It's weird to bring up the time that it was published at. You'll just have to refresh the page, Heather. A little circly thing up at the left. There we go. Yeah, it was published at 6:05. So this is just the, I mean, we haven't spent any money in a while, so there's not really any big changes here. Don't really, the big change, I guess, that we'll have to account for, and we can look at this draft budget, we don't need to figure out the budget, we can, this is not the final, this is a draft, so that's going to be coming up next, right? But because we made the changes to the way that the O'Connor Fund is functioning with regards to the disbursement of funds, we don't necessarily need to have a placeholder anymore for those funds to come over. So when you look at the financial reports in the past, you'll notice that the adjusted appropriation on the last page of the expenditure detail report is $26,000. We don't probably need to have as large of an appropriation for that because we're not going to be bringing those funds. We don't have the need for a placeholder anymore. The reason we needed that placeholder, Dan, was because when we were spending funds out of the O'Connor Fund, which is money that is held at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, it had to pass through the city of Kalamazoo before it could be spent. So spent on a third party, or obviously if the commission was going to be spending it for itself, then it would need to come here. What we talked about earlier with the Ocon 4 and the changing of what was happening at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation is no longer necessary for the money to be traveling through the city of Kalamazoo, so we don't necessarily need that kind of placeholder of $26,000 anymore.
Meaning our budget will drop moving forward?
On paper, it would drop, I guess, but I would not look at it. These are two distinct bodies of money. So we do have money that is held here at the city of Kalamazoo, but it is very small compared to the amount of money that we have at the.
It's for expediency of use by Luis.
Yes.
Rather than accessing the community foundation.
Thank you, Kyle. The example that we can give every time, and this can be the transition into the budget discussion, then Pam, I did send you an email with the budget in it as well, just so you saw it. The example that we always give is that annually we have a meeting prior to our O'Connor Fund grant application that's kind of like a introductory pre-application meeting. At that meeting, we have historically, 5 years running historically, rented KNAC to use their space and got Jimmy John's, right? Those are things that I need to have cash on hand for that, well, the Jimmy John's. I need to have the cash to give it to them because they don't usually, they won't front me sandwiches, right? They're going to want the money to come with it right then. The issue then becomes that the Kalamazoo Community Foundation generally disperses funds twice a month, so maybe the 1st and the 15th of the month, right? The money is dispersed. That doesn't really work for Jimmy John's. So we do need to have some cash on hand to make sure, hey, we can give it to the. There's kind of a small list of things that we might need to be able to spend money for with, like you said, expediency. So that's why we have these 2 buckets of money as a way to look at it. I would not say, though, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, we're not going to be shrinking our budget necessarily, but we're not going to be saying, hey, we need to reserve $26,000 to be able to come over to the city coffers for spending. My opinion. You guys make the vote.
So the financial report is separate from said budget, or is it?
Yeah, it was almost prescient of me to move the financial report right next to the budgetary discussion, but it was not actually prescient. I did it on accident. If we want to move into the draft budget review, we certainly can.
Okay. If it's okay with everybody else.
Once again, I think that this really displays really crappy, so I apologize that the last line got kind of cut off from this page. It seems like you can't display a Excel file up on within Civic Clerk, so I apologize for that. If we were to look at the biggest places, and we can have kind of, again, this is just a draft. We can make changes to it, so we can spend a different meeting dissecting more fully, but what I was just speaking about of not having to hold those funds, a placeholder for those funds would show up underneath the heading KCF O'Connor Historic Preservation, which is the last blue bar. We would not need to hold $10,000 for sponsorships or $10,000 for grants. That would greatly reduce the amount of money that we'd be looking at for the 2026 proposed.
And when does this need to be approved for the city?
It's always great questions. You guys always have good questions. Today is the draft. I want to say October is the deadline for the actual final. Yep, so I have a meeting on my calendar for the 7th of October for the historic final budget meeting. I don't know why I just read the title of the meeting like that means anything or that lends legitimacy to it. That would be the week before our October meeting. What I would suggest then is that tentatively we kind of look at this seriously for next month, but then not tentatively. If we wanted extra time, I could ask if I could push back that meeting for the final back a week so we can have our regular October meeting. If you guys think that having an extra month to mull it over would be helpful.
That brings me to when I was trying to propose earlier.
Yep.
And it takes so long to do this. We'd probably want it to be on the budget if it was something we wanted to explore, but I just picked up, was it 19th Century Houses book, and saw that it was paid for by this commission, and I just thought that was, twofold great on the education, and then also on the fundraising, and so I was just going to propose to start the discussion. Maybe the commission should put out another book of some sort. And then, I don't know if there'd be a subcommittee on like possible topics. And then, we could talk to former publishers and what the budget on something like that would look like. And then get that going because, there's so many interesting topics that we could explore. One that I've been thinking about, and that's just from, my own point of view, is like, history of Kalamazoo businesses, specifically like like I go through old Gazette articles and there's just so many, cool old burger shops, maybe not super significant, but had just such great design, interesting, was a cultural icon for like 50 or 60 years and then disappeared and people don't know about it. That would be like one, or then like, the historic home tours, like documenting all those. I mean, there's just an infinite amount of topics that we could tackle, but yeah, so that was one thing that I would love to discuss.
Maybe someone will write another book for us. I think I heard her say yes. She's just not mic'd up, so who knows, right? Yeah, we can certainly look, and I think we would kind of couch that underneath, probably at this point, like we'd want to couch it underneath expenditures because I don't think we're going to see any revenues from it for next year. I'm still learning myself. I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say. Not good at accounting. So I've been learning slowly. You have to make those expenditures and the revenues zero each other out. They have to balance.
Well, if it took us a year to get it all together, I mean, more than likely, we wouldn't have too many expenditures before next year, but maybe, like, I don't know if, like, depending on how fast it go, it'd be a bummer if we got it all together and we just had to wait around for the next cycle, so.
Yeah, so there's probably ways around that as well. What I would encourage then folks to do is, I know that we had some kind of budgetary subcommittee, is this correct? Looking to you, Kyle. Jog my memory.
We did. I don't know if it still exists. That'd be more a question for Patrick. But
Okay, well,
then we lost his cohorts on it.
less than a quorum could discuss this potentially, so.
Well, that's the thing too. If we have to approve our budget, we're trying to incorporate our budget into our planning, but we always plan in like February. So how do we do our budget before we plan?
It's another kind of hinky thing. I seem to be an amnesiac about that every year. In the interim, I think it would just be good if we just reached out then, include Patrick in something, get essentially less than a quorum to discuss this. So Dan, if you'd like to be involved with some of this stuff, you have Patrick's email, just kind of send a note out and say, hey.
I can just I'll do an email to everyone on the email that you sent out, so all of us are on it, and ask if people want to be, and it was a budget commission?
Yeah, we just have to be
Subcommission?
careful because then you just be careful of,
Surveying interest for a new subcommittee, I think would be fine, but then just
Survey.
meet as that subcommittee, which is under quorum.
yes.
Okay. For new, okay.
This doesn't really come up for the HDC, but you guys are personally responsible for violations of the Open Meetings Act, and I would not want that to happen. So,
And what would be a violation, trying to?
meeting with more than quorum.
With, even via email, that is a meeting, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'll email Patrick and then take it from there.
Yeah, and if, I'm not saying that to scare you, but I just don't want,
No, I mean, I don't want to walk into it. Pam?
Quick comment about.
you have to come up, sorry, or else I have to repeat you. My voice,
A subcommittee could be made up of one commissioner and several members of the public.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah, as long as there's at least one commissioner on the subcommittee.
So a
think
couple
that's how it
things
works.
to put a proverbial bow on this. Please do think about things. If you guys have things for budgetary, I don't want to use the word things again, but if you guys have budgetary considerations, email them to me, please. So anyone can do that. If you guys notice, like, oh my gosh, Luis, why is, and this is so annoying to read, I'm terribly sorry because it breaks itself off. Why is professional development, and this is actually a question we had, $7,000, I think, or something, or professional contractual services, $7,000 for 2026. Let me know if that's a question that you guys have, and I can address it as well, and I'll make notes to give us some next steps. So Dan, if you'll reach out to Patrick and just say, hey, can we look over this? Tentatively right now, I'm gonna have something, I'd like to get something put together by September. I will reach out to you all and let you know if I can move the date to after our October meeting. So our October meeting is the 14th. I will reach out and let you guys know if I can move the discussion that I have with our financial team to after the 14th, so to give us an extra month. Kyle, in regards to your question about, we usually do our planning at the beginning of the year, the budgetary stuff then as well. Don't they go hand in hand? They do go hand in hand. I think that we've afforded ourselves a little bit of leeway with the new restructuring of the O'Connor Fund stuff, a little bit. I don't know if that's completely right or not. I think we've afforded ourselves some financial planning leeway with the restructuring of the O'Connor Fund, and I don't know how set in stone we are then to the city budget. I think it gives us some room to still enjoy our regular planning schedule of looking at budgetary things in February, even if we submit something to the city prior. Additionally, we can also do budget amendments. I think I covered all my bases there, so.
I'm going to take the opportunity, since we're all sitting here, is there
Yeah.
anyone here that would specifically want to be on the budget subcommission? I see one in the audience.
Yep.
We need one member, and I'm excited for that, and it's in my wheelhouse, but if anyone else,
Patrick is an accountant, right?
okay.
So
Oh, and then Patrick is the accountant, okay. So,
By
but
trade.
then I will just email Patrick and maybe Pam then, and you as well, and,
You can, yep. And if you guys
And
want me to
then-
come in
okay. Okay.
present, the one thing that I want to make sure that we do moving forward, and I feel like we do this every time, but it's not reflected, if I'm an amnesiac, then I think that I also am just having bad deja vu. I think that this is something that we talked about last year, probably right around this time, I'm guessing. We, I think, write up notes for our budgets when we write them up. Like, we have kind of line items that we describe what the money is for, I believe. These ones don't, so there's a discrepancy then, right? And those don't really jive together. So as you guys go through and do any of this budgeting stuff that you do with the subcommittee, please do try to make notes and say, like, we're putting $450 into this line item because it adds up not just because we thought 450 was a cool number. That helps us be able to make more informed financial decisions as we go throughout the year. And I trust that you guys will be able to do that.
Possible to change some of the category names, like,
Here, no, but I think that what we could do is we would make it so our understanding of how our category or we would fit our needs to map onto these categories. These ones are fixed because this is state accounting, so they are fixed.
okay, okay.
But we could say like, hey, it says financial services, this is just an example, or it says,
Professional development.
Sure,
This is
so-
for commissioners to go to preservation
yes,
conferences
so
and,
we could make up a map in our own head, or we could even make up a map that we distribute amongst ourselves that says
Yeah.
professional development really to us means MHPN conference, right? We could make those things just so we can have our own nomenclature and speak effectively.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions about this?
Not about this, but then the second thing was having the commission invest in placards for the commissioners.
More or less about this, yes. So I won't be able to do a money vote this time, but we could do a money vote next month. So in September, we could make a vote. I can investigate how much the placards will cost, and we could vote to get them.
Because I think we have the frames, and yeah, you can reuse them in other commissions. I think you still have mine. But I just think it would add legitimacy to the commission, at least visually, like if we had like a big crowd of people for some subject we were talking about.
Yes.
So that's all.
If that day comes. Just kidding. There's also other alternative placards, so like the city commissions hang down here. We could also do those ones. So,
Just anything slightly more substantial.
yeah.
These are pretty unique. It's,
Fred, ever the optimist, And I would have offered you guys the opportunity to keep those too, the existing ones, so. For scrapbooks or whatever else you do, so.
it looked like new ones are out there now. Is it the same one?
I know, they don't look as beat up, right? Not as much tape on the back and not as many creases. Okay, so just to kind of cover my own bases here, could we make a vote approving the draft budget? This is not the final budget. Then you could also add a caveat saying that there will be revisions made for the final budget.
I make a motion that we approve the draft budget, including the notes that we discussed, as it will be changed in the final budget.
I second.
And we need a roll call vote for that. Okay. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dan?
Yes.
And Melissa?
Yes.
We agree it will change. All right. I think we're good there. Do you have a coordinator's report this month, Luis? What you been doing?
What have I been doing? Why are they putting me on the spot? We moved offices, so if people come to see me downtown, you're not going to find me down there anymore. We have moved to 150 East Crosstown Parkway, Suite B. 150 East Crosstown Parkway, Suite B. The old, there still is police, I guess that's police headquarters down there, and it used to be like a court as well, and it used to be a Sears, and it used to be a Bronson, but now it's where CPED is. So feel free to come down if people want to have in-person meetings with me or check out the new space. You're more than welcome. You can come see me and Heather. Heather's the first person you'll see when you walk in. Huh?
Is it sweet?
Suite B. Yeah. Hope that answered your question. Yes, it is a very nice building. It's all new and updated in its hours, so I think it's going to be a long-term home for CPED community planning and economic development, which is nice. Move was very interesting. Took up a lot of time. I hate moving. but I got it done. I persevered.
Did you get artifacts up on the wall, like cool maps and stuff like that?
That poster I grabbed for you from MHPN?
That's at my house. I have artifacts with me, if you will, but they're not up on the wall yet. So I think that we're still going through some build out of the new space right now. So they're planning to do some historic stuff in other places, and I'm trying to pick my places where I can put some stuff up. But again, people are more than welcome if you did want to come down. I do have cool stuff. I have quite a few books that I've put into a small preservation library, if you will, if people want to come down and check stuff out. So that's been very interesting. So just wanted to say thank you, Kayla, for making it to your last meeting, if this is still your last meeting, unless you've changed your mind, you know. Appreciate you serving on the commission. Appreciate you always providing input on stuff when asked, and appreciate you helping me out when I've asked you as well. So you will be missed on the commission, but I hope that everything goes well for you back in Idaho, and I hope that we can continue to work together for a little bit longer. Sounds like we will be able to. That is all that I really have for my coordinator report. Do people have commissioner comments? If there's not commissioner comments on something that I was expecting, I can also, I guess, include it, but I anticipate that there'd be commissioner comments.
We have to find another pre-reviewer for the grant applications.
Yeah, what the heck, wait.
I was gonna say, and I mentioned to Pam that if you guys still
Can I stay on the
want
subcommittee?
read, I could stay on the subcommittee to remotely pre-review. But if somebody else joins, it's not gonna hurt my feelings to not be on, so.
I think we would surely take the valued input from your experience.
Kayla would grudgingly give up her place on the pre-reviewers committee if someone else stepped into the role.
Somebody would love to pre-review those, I'd let them, but
We still have some, yeah, we have.
I am still okay to do them.
Thank you so much. We have time in between now and then, so we'll see what we can sort out. I know that we're also going to have some upcoming more vacancies with Fred and Melissa as well, so we have some work to do filling in some spots, even though we have 2 people vacant right now. I think you guys are on until next month, so we got to high gear. But I mean, when I say that is, you guys all have friends, right? Reach out to them and ask if they'd like to serve on the commission.
When I was reviewing the minutes from last month, you told us that they were on until November 30th.
Oh, well, I trust what I said last time, because I'm guessing I wouldn't have made up that number out of nowhere, and I'm guessing I was looking at the table. So you guys are on until November 30th, sorry. That gives us a little bit more time, though. Because the quorum number for this one is so high, we do want to make sure that we have folks, especially when we're coming up against things like the budget review and stuff. We want to make sure we can have those meetings. November. Straight down the middle there.
All right, were there any other commissioner comments for this evening?
I'm just going to say thanks for having me on the commission. I've enjoyed working with you all, and really appreciate, all the opportunities to go to the MHPN from the O'Connor Fund. But yeah, like I said, still offering to be a pre-reviewer, but maybe like Nora, I'll tune into some of your meetings on YouTube.
Oh, we've appreciated having you. Sad to see you go, but it sounds like it's very important. Has your time on the commission informed your TIPO work at all? Can you share? Do you want to share?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a bit, and just for me personally, learning more about Kalamazoo specific stuff, but also just for things that I don't necessarily encounter on the TIPO side, since I deal more, with, definitely Section 106 stuff, but on the more federal consultation aspect of it. So yeah, I've liked seeing the more local kind of aspect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If there's no one else, we will, what do you call it? Adjourn. There we go, 7:15. Thank you. Have a